All right, let's dive into one of the heaviest chapters in American history, the Civil War. From 1861 to 1865, this country was ripped apart, and the Union, those northern states, fought tooth and nail to keep it together and, eventually, to end slavery. It was a brutal, soul-crushing fight, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. The cost? Insane. We're talking 620, 0 to 750, 0 total deaths, and for the Union alone, about 360, 0 soldiers never made it home. According to the American Battlefield Trust and New York Times, that's a number that hits you in the gut, and I'm here to break it all down for you, how it happened, why, and what it meant for America. This is for you, for us, to honor those guys who gave everything and to tell their story in a way that feels real, like it's part of who we are. I'm going to walk you through the big battles that turned fields into graveyards, the diseases that killed more than bullets, the nightmare of Confederate prison camps, and the letters from soldiers that'll make your heart ache. We'll also dig into how these deaths changed the North families, towns, the whole damn society, and how we still keep their memory alive today. So buckle up, because this is a hell of a story, and it's ours. Picture America in the 1850s, split down the middle like a cracked plate. The South's all about cotton, plantations, and slavery. Millions of enslaved people are the engine of their economy, as Encyclopedia Britannica lays out. Down there, it's fields stretching forever, big mansions, and a way of life built on keeping people in chains. The North, totally different vibe. They're cranking out goods in factories, building railroads, and betting on free labor. To them, slavery's not just wrong, it's holding back progress. The two sides are arguing over everything: new states, federal power, and especially whether slavery should spread west. By 1860, it's a full-on powder keg, ready to blow. Then Abraham Lincoln wins the presidency in 1860. He's a Republican, says no new slave states, and the South loses it. They're convinced he's coming for their whole system. Before Lincoln even gets to the White House, 7 states bolt South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, you name it, and form the Confederate States of America, per history.com. 4 more join later, making 11. It's like the country's tearing itself in half, and nobody's backing down. The spark hits on April 12, 1861, when Confederates fire on Fort Sumter, a Union post in South Carolina. Boom, war's on. Lincoln calls for 75, 0 volunteers to squash the rebellion, and suddenly, it's go time. The Union's fighting to keep the nation from splitting, but by 1863, with the Emancipation Proclamation, it's also about ending slavery for good. That changes everything, gives the war a moral fire that burns even brighter. This wasn't some tidy little fight. New tech like rifled muskets, which could nail a guy 500 yards away, and massive cannons made battles bloodbaths, but the medical side, way behind. No antibiotics, no clue about germs guys were dropping left and right from stuff we'd fix today. The war didn't just kill soldiers, it reshaped America, how we live, who we are, what we stand for. And it all started with that divide nobody could bridge. So, who were these guys fighting for the Union? Man, they were everybody, 2.6 million of them by the war's end, says the National Park Service. When it kicked off, the regular U.S. Army was tiny, like 16, 0 guys, mostly out chasing bandits in the West. Lincoln's call for volunteers hit like a thunderclap. Young dudes from New York to Illinois signed up, some for the Union, some for a paycheck, some because their buddies did. New York alone sent over 400, 0, per the Library of Congress. It was a wave of patriotism, but also just guys wanting to be part of something bigger. By 1863, the war's dragging, and volunteers aren't enough, so the Union starts a draft. It's messy as hell. Rich guys could pay $300 or hire a stand-in, which ticked off the poor folks. In New York, the draft riots of 1863 got so bad, over 100 people died, per history.com. But the draft kept the ranks filled, even if it stirred up trouble. The Union armies split into big chunks, like the Army of the Potomac in the east, led by generals like George McClellan, Ambrose Burnside, and eventually Ulysses S. Grant, the guy who'd hammer the Confederates into submission. Out west, you had armies like the Army of the Tennessee under William Sherman, tearing through Georgia. Their organized tight corps, divisions, brigades, down to regiments of about 1-0 guys, though battles and sickness could cut that to 300 per the American Battlefield Trust. The North's railroads and factories kept them supplied food, ammo, uniforms, but it wasn't always smooth. Spoiled rations, late deliveries, you name it. These soldiers, total mix. About 48% were farmers, 24% mechanics, 16% laborers, 5% shopkeepers, and 3% fancy professionals, per the National Park Service. Most were in their early 20s, but you had kids as young as 14 sneaking in, and grizzled dudes in their 50s marching too. A quarter were immigrants Irish, escaping famine, Germans chasing freedom. The Irish Brigade, those guys were fearless, charging into hell at Fredericksburg. Germans brought grit to places like Missouri. Then, after the Emancipation Proclamation, about 180, 0 black soldiers join up, forming the United States Colored Troops, per PBS. They're heroes, plain and simple, but they got a raw Delaware pay till 1,864, and if the Confederates caught them, they might face execution instead of a prison camp. Still, they fought like lions at Fort Wagner, Petersburg, proving they belonged. These guys weren't just fighting for the Union, they were fighting for their own freedom. Training? Spotty at first. A lot of these dudes never fired a gun before. Drills were basic march, shoot, don't panic. By 63, veteran units were sharp, but green recruits could screw things up in a big battle. Morale was a roller coaster. A win like Gettysburg had them cheering. A slog through Virginia mud had them cursing. Letters, like ones kept at the University of Washington, show it all guys missing home, praying for victory, or just trying to survive another day. This was a tough, scrappy, diverse army, and they paid a price we're about to unpack. All right, let's talk numbers because they're staggering. About 360 Union soldiers died, says the American Battlefield Trust and historians like William Fox. That's 13.8% of the 2.6 million who served. Total casualties killed, wounded, captured, or missing hit, 642,427 per history.com. The Confederates lost around 258, but with their smaller population, it crushed them proportionally. The old count for total Civil War deaths was 618,222, but a demographer, J. David Hacker, dug into census data and says it's more like 750, per the New York Times. That accounts for guys missed in records, civilians, and soldiers who died later from war wounds. For the Union, though, 360, zero's the number we stick with still a gut punch. So, how'd these deaths break down? 3 big buckets. Battle deaths, 110, 100 guys killed in fights or from wounds. New rifles could hit you half a mile away, and cannons shredded lines. But generals used old tactics marching in tight rows, like sitting ducks. At Gettysburg, the 88th New York lost 60% of its men in a day, per HistoryNet. If you got hit, good luck. Doctors didn't know about infections gangrene was a death sentence. Disease, the big killer, 224, 580 soldiers, twice as many as battle. Camps were filthy, no clean water, latrines near streams, guys packed like sardines. Dysentery and diarrhea killed 45-0 per PMC. Typhoid burned through early camps. Malaria hit in southern swamps. Pneumonia took guys in winter. Smallpox and measles nailed new recruits. Doctors had no clue about germs, and treatments like mercury pills could make you sicker. Prison camps, 3,192 died in Confederate prisons. Andersonville in Georgia was the worst over 12, 0 deaths, says the National Park Service. Starvation, disease, no shelter. Other camps like Libby and Belle Isle were just as bad. The Union blockade cut Confederate supplies, but neglect didn't help. To put it in perspective, that 360 is more than U.S. deaths in World War I and II combined, per the Department of Veterans Affairs. And since this was Americans killing Americans, it hit communities hard. Whole towns lost their sons, brothers, fathers. The North's better hospitals and supplies kept their death rate lower than the South's 18-20%, but still, 13.8% is brutal. Counting the dead was tricky. Union records were solid, but missed guys who died later from war injuries. Hacker's higher estimate tries to fix that, but 360 zeros what we've got. It's a number that sticks with you, and it's only part of the story. The Civil War's battles were like nothing America had seen. Fields turned into slaughterhouses. Let's zero in on two big ones, Gettysburg and Antietam, then hit some others. These are pulled from places like the American Battlefield Trust and HistoryNet, and they show why the Union paid such a price. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, July 13, 1863. This was the war's deadliest fight, with over 50 zero casualties total. The Union lost about 23, 155 killed, 14, 529 wounded, 5, 365 missing or captured. It stopped Confederate General Robert E. Lee's invasion of the North, and it changed everything. Day 1. It starts when Confederates bump into Union cavalry outside town. The Union's I and 11 Corps, led by John Reynolds, dig in, but they're outnumbered. Reynolds takes a bullet and deaces a huge loss. By night, the Unions pushed back to Cemetery Hill, losing 9-0, many captured. It's a rough start. Day 2. General George Meade takes charge, setting up a strong line on Cemetery Ridge, Culp's Hill, and Little Round Top. Lee hammers both flanks. At Little Round Top, the 20th Maine, led by Joshua Chamberlain, holds off wave after wave of Rebs. It's the stuff of Legends bayonets fixed, no ammo left, they charge and win. The Union's battered but holds. Day 3. Lee goes for broke with Pickett's charge at 12. 500 Confederates storm across open fields towards Cemetery Ridge. Union guns and rifles rip them apart, killing or wounding over half. It's a disaster for Lee, and he retreats July 4. Gettysburg was a massive Union win. It crushed Lee's hopes of taking the North and lit a fire under the Union cause. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address that November made it about more than territory. It was about equality, a new America. With 165 zero troops in the fight, the losses hit hard, leaving towns mourning for years. September 17, 1862, near Sharpsburg, Maryland. Antietam's the bloodiest single day in U.S. history. 23, zero casualties total. The Union lost 12, 400. 2, 108 killed, 9, 540 wounded, 750 missing or captured. George McClellan's got 87, 0 guys in the Army of the Potomac, facing Lee's 38, 0 at Antietam Creek. It's a meat grinder, split into 3 phases. Morning. Union troops slam into Confederates in a cornfield. It's pure chaos. Muskets, cannons, screams. Units like the 12th Massachusetts lose 70% per HistoryNet. The field's a revolving door, changing hands over and over. Midday, the fight shifts to a sunken road, later called Bloody Lane. Union 2 Corps charges in, and it's carnage. 500 casualties pile up in hours. The Union finally breaks through, but at a cost. Afternoon, Ambrose Burnside's 9th Corps tries crossing a stone bridge. Confederate snipers pin him down, but they push across, only to get stopped by fresh rebel troops. Tactically, it's a draw. McClellan doesn't chase Lee, which drives Lincoln nuts. But strategically, it's a Union win, because Lee retreats. It gives Lincoln the opening to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, making the war about freedom. The loss of some regiments nearly gone shocked the nation, showing just how ugly this war's getting. Other brutal fights. Shiloh, April 6-7, 1862, Tennessee, early in the war. The Union loses 13-47, with 754 killed. Ulysses S. Grant's army gets caught off guard by Confederates. In the fighting, Savage at 23, 746 total casualties, per PBS. It's a wake-up call. This war's gonna be long and bloody. Chickamauga, September 1920, 1,863. Georgia, a rare Confederate win. The Union loses 16,170, including 1,657 killed. General William Rosecrans's army gets pushed back to Chattanooga, trapped till Grant bails them out, per the American Battlefield Trust. Spotsylvania, May 821, 1,864. Virginia, part of Grant's Overland Campaign. The Union loses 18,399, with 2,725 killed. The Bloody Angle is hell on earth guys fighting hand-to-hand in pouring rain, mud, and blood per HistoryNet. These fights show the war's evolutionary chaos, defensive stands, then Grant's relentless grind. New weapons, outdated tactics, and massive armies meant losses that broke hearts back home. Every battle was a reminder. This was a fight for survival. Now, let's talk about the real enema disease. It killed 224,580 Union soldiers, 62% of the total deaths, way more than battle. That's a number that floors you. Camps were disgusting, think no clean water, food gone bad, and guys crammed together. Here's what took them down. Dysentery and diarrhea, killed 45-0 per PMC. Bad water, rotten rations guys wasted away, too weak to fight it. Typhoid fever, spread through filth. It hit hard in 61 and 62, burning guys up with fever. Malaria, southern swamps were a breeding ground. Fevers kept coming back, sapping strength. Pneumonia, winter camps, freezing and wet, turned lungs into death traps, especially after other illnesses. Smallpox and measles, new recruits, fresh from farms, had no immunity. These diseases tore through camps. Medicine back then? Brutal. Doctors didn't know about germs. Louis Pasteur's work wasn't common knowledge yet. They'd use the same dirty tools on everyone, spreading infections. Treatments were wild mercury for diarrhea, bleeding for fevers, stuff that could kill you faster, per Wikipedia. Early on, the medical system was a disaster. No ambulances, no real hospitals, just tents and chaos. Surgery was no picnic either. Get shot, and amputation was likely 60. 0 Union guys went through it, with a 75% survival rate, per the American Battlefield Trust. They used anesthesia, like ether or chloroform, not like those myths of biting bullets, but infections were a huge risk. The mini-A ball, that conical bullet, smashed bones to bits, so doctors had to act fast, often in filthy conditions. But some folks stepped up and made a difference. Jonathan Letterman, this guy's a legend. As medical director of the Army of the Potomac, he set up triage ambulances and field hospitals by 1,863. Saved countless lives, per the American Battlefield Trust. Clara Barton, the angel of the battlefield. She hauled supplies, nursed guys at Antietam and Fredericksburg, and later founded the Red Cross, per History.com. Total badass. William Hammond, Surgeon General who cleaned up hospitals, got better supplies, and started studying injuries to improve care. The U.S. Sanitary Commission, a civilian group, was huge toward raising money, sending nurses, getting supplies to camps. Women like Dorothea Dix, who ran the Army's nursing, and Mary Ann Bickerdike, a hero in Western hospitals, broke all kinds of barriers. They fought for soldiers when the system didn't. Disease showed how far behind medicine was. Camps were like giant petri dishes, and 2/3 of deaths came from sickness. It was a tragedy, but it forced changes, better sanitation, medical training that shaped modern military medicine. Those 580 guys didn't die for nothing. Their loss pushed progress. Let's get into something grim: Confederate prison camps. About 192 Union soldiers died in these places, 8% of the total deaths. Starvation, disease, no shelter, it was hell. Andersonville in Georgia was the worst, but other camps were no walk in the park. Andersonville, or Camp Sumter, ran from 1,864 to 1,865. Built for 10, 0 prisoners, it held 45, 0 at its peak. Over 12, 0 died, says the National Park Service. Picture an open stockade, no buildings, just guys in tents or holes they dug themselves. The only water was Stockade Branch, a stream they used as a sewer. Dysentery, scurvy, you name it, spread like wildfire. Why was it so bad? Starvation. Rations were pathetic moldy cornmeal, maybe beans, barely one, 0 calories a day. Guys starved, their bodies shutting down. Disease. No medicine, no sanitation. Infections ran rampant, killing thousands. Exposure. Georgia's blazing sun or freezing nights hit hard with no cover. Cruelty. The commandant, Henry Wirtz, ran a tight, brutal ship. Some say he was scapegoated, per American heritage, but he got hanged for war crimes in '65. Survivors' stories, printed in Harper's Weekly, were chilling. Guys so thin they looked like skeletons. Some prisoners, called raiders, stole from others, but groups like the Regulators tried to keep order. It was desperation, pure and simple. Other camps sucked too. Libby Prison, Richmond. A warehouse for officers, packed tight, crawling with vermin. About 10% died per Civil War times. Belle Isle, Richmond. Enlisted guys, no shelter, exposed to the elements. Dysentery and pneumonia killed hundreds monthly. Salisbury, North Carolina. By late 1864, it was Andersonville, level bad, with 700 deaths. The Union blockade choked Confederate supplies, so food and medicine were scarce. But the South's decision to halt prisoner exchanges in 1863, partly over black soldiers, made camps overflow. Union prisons, like Elmira in New York, weren't great. Either 24% of Confederate prisoners died there, but Andersonville's scale and horror made it infamous. Those stories lit a fire in the North, fueling anger that carried into Reconstruction. Andersonville's now a National Historic Site, a reminder of the war's darkest corners. Wirtz's trial was a rare moment of accountability, showing the world what those 192 endured. Numbers are heavy, but the soldiers' own words, that's where it gets real. Letters and diaries let us see these guys, their hopes, fears, what kept them going. Let's look at a few that stick with you, pulled from places like the University of Washington and the Gilder Lehrman Institute. First up, Samuel D. Lou Heed, a chaplain with the 8th Illinois. In 1862, he writes to his wife Jane from Memphis. It's tough watching war horses stomp over the dead and dying. War's horrors are unreal. No words can capture it. You feel the weight on a guy trying to hold on to faith while seeing hell every day. His letters mix spiritual grit with raw shock at the carnage. Then there's William T. Patterson, a sergeant in the Tuan, New Jersey. His diary's got these entries, kept by the Gilder Lehrman Institute. November 8, 1864. Lincoln's back, thank God. We're beat up, but this feels like hope. April 2, 1865. We took Petersburg, but half my company's gone. Guys I knew since '61. You can hear his relief at Lincoln's re-election, but also the pain friends gone. Guys he ate with, laughed with, now just names on a list. John Tidd, a soldier in New York's 109th, starts off pumped but gets dark. His letters, in Life in the Finger Lakes, show the shift. August 1862. Signed up to save the Union. Drills are tough, but we're pumped. June 1864. After Spotsylvania, I don't know if we'll make it home. Too many graves. That change from eager kid to haunted veteran hits hard. The war chewed up his optimism, like it did for so many. What do these stories tell us? These guys fought for big ideas, saving the Union, ending slavery, but also for each other, their boys in the regiment. They started with dreams, but faced a grind that broke most men. The Library of Congress has thousands of these letters, and Women's Voices nurses, wives add even more. Like a nurse writing about holding a dying soldier's hand, or a wife begging her husband to come home safe. These aren't just old papers, they're people, with fears and loves like ours. They make the 360 zero, not just a number, but lives cut short. Places like the National Archives keep these stories alive, and reading them, you feel connected to those guys, like they're speaking to you across time. Losing 360 men didn't just hurt it reshape the North, top to bottom. Let's break it down. Right after, the impact was raw. Families were wrecked widows, orphans, parents burying sons. Pensions, started in 1862, helped, but it wasn't enough. Small towns got hit hardest. Waterloo, New York, lost most of its honest New York Dragoons at Spotsylvania, per PMC. Whole communities felt empty, like the heart got ripped out. Women stepped up big time. With men gone, they ran farms, worked in factories, or nursed soldiers. Over 0 women served in some way: nurses, spies, even disguised as soldiers, shaking up what women's work meant, per American heritage. It was a shift that stuck, paving the way for future generations. Immigrants, especially Irish and German, took a beating but proved themselves. The Irish Brigade's courage at Fredericksburg won respect, but the draft riots showed they still faced hate, especially from folks who blamed them for taking jobs. It was a messy step toward acceptance. Long term, the war changed everything. Slavery's end, those 360 deaths helped pass the 13th Amendment in 1865, killing slavery. Reconstruction tried to build equality, but it fell short, per PBS. Still, the war set the stage for the civil rights fight. Economy. The North's factories went into overdrive for the war guns, uniforms, canned food. Losing so many farmers pushed machines like the McCormick Reaper, changing agriculture forever. Government. The feds got huge new taxes, the draft, a bigger army. That power shift shaped how America's run today, per Encyclopedia Britannica. Emotionally, the North was scarred. Death was everywhere: black mourning clothes, memorial services, towns holding vigils. Writers like Walt Whitman, with poems and drum taps, and Louisa May Alcott, with hospital sketches, captured the grief. People clung to the idea of a noble death, but too many died in agony, per The Atlantic. Still, the war forged a stronger sense of nationhood. The North felt like one people, even if race and politics kept things messy. Those losses weren't just numbers, they rewrote the North's story, from how people lived to what they believed. How do we honor 360 fallen soldiers? The North started right away, and we're still at it. Cemeteries were a big deal. Places like Arlington, set up in 1864, and Gettysburg became sacred ground, holding thousands of Union graves run by the National Park Service. Families could visit, lay flowers, feel close to their lost ones. Monuments sprang up everywhere. The Grand Army of the Republic, a Union veterans group, built thousands-think statues of soldiers, like the Silent Sentinel, standing watch. Gettysburg alone's got 400 markers, per the Washington Post. They're not just stone, they're promises to never forget. Memorial Day started as Decoration Day in 1868, when folks put flowers on Union graves. Now, it's for all U.S. military, every last Monday in May, a time to pause and reflect. National parks keep the story alive. Gettysburg gets over 1 million visitors, a year tours, reenactments, the works, per nps.gov. Antietam preserves Bloody Lane, teaching the war's cost. Shiloh shows the Western theater's brutality. These places are like time machines, letting you walk where history happened. The war's woven into our culture: movies like Glory and Lincoln, books like The Red Badge of Courage, songs like Battle Hymn of the Republic. Reenactments bring it to life. Though debates over Confederate statues remind us the war's still a hot topic, per the New York Times, Union soldiers are at the heart of it, showing what it costs to keep the country whole. Why does this matter now? Those deaths remind us democracy's fragile. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, Archives Day, keep the story close. The war's lessons: unity, equality, gritare, stuff we need today, when division's always lurking. The 360 Union soldiers who died didn't just fight, they saved America. They died in battles like Gettysburg, from diseases in filthy camps, in prisons like Andersonville, leaving a mark that's still here. Their losses changed the North families, jobs, how we see ourselves. Their letters show their heart, their courage, their pain. Monuments, parks, and holidays keep them in our minds. This war wasn't about stats, it was about what America could be. Those soldiers paid the ultimate price for a country that's still chasing unity and justice. Their story's a call to us to keep pushing for what's right, to honor their sacrifice by building a better nation. That's the legacy of those 360, and it's on us to carry it forward.